Have you ever looked up at the stars and wondered, why are we here? What is our purpose in this vast, seemingly endless universe? It's a question that is echoed through time, from ancient philosophers to modern scientists, from quiet moments of reflection to deep theological inquiry. Today, we dive into that profound mystery together. We're not just asking what life means. We're exploring the ultimate question: why did God create us? From the moment of creation, when the heavens and the earth were shaped by the hands of the Almighty, humanity was made in His image. Set apart from all other creatures, we were designed with intention, not as an afterthought, but as the pinnacle of divine creation. But what does it mean to be created in God's image? What is the purpose of our existence, and how does it all fit into the grand tapestry of His divine plan? Let's journey together through the sacred words of Scripture, uncovering the truth behind our creation, our fall, and our redemption. It all begins in Genesis. The very first chapter of the Bible tells us that God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, He created them. This verse may seem simple on the surface, but it holds the key to understanding our reason for being. We weren't created out of necessity. God, being perfect, doesn't need anything. But out of His great love and divine pleasure, He chose to create. And at the heart of that creation was us. Humanity, His masterpiece. Unlike the animals or the plants that populate the earth, we were made to reflect His nature, not physically because God is spirit, but spiritually. We possess the ability to think, to reason, to choose, and to love. We can build relationships, create art, invent technologies, and explore the cosmos. These aren't just human traits, they are reflections of God's own character. We were made to worship, to wonder, to seek meaning beyond ourselves. That self-awareness, that longing for purpose, it's not random. It's a gift, a divine spark within every one of us. One of the greatest privileges of being created in God's image is our ability to form relationships, not only with each other, but with God Himself. From the very first breath of Adam, God desired intimacy. He walked with Adam in the cool of the day, speaking with him like a friend. That relationship wasn't one-sided, it was mutual. God created us not only to receive His love, but to return it. Our purpose is to know Him, to engage with Him, and to glorify Him through our lives. But then came the fall. In Genesis 3, we read about the tragic moment when sin entered the world. Adam and Eve, tempted by the serpent, chose disobedience over trust. That decision changed everything. The harmony between humanity and God was shattered. The image of God within us was marred, though not erased. Yet even in that brokenness, God's love remained steadfast. The beauty of His creation, though tarnished by sin, still reflected His image. His love for us never wavered. We see this in the lives of individuals throughout the Bible who chose to honor God despite their flaws. King David, despite his sins, was called a man after God's own heart because his life reflected a desire to return to that relationship with God. The same is true for us today. We might not be perfect, and we may struggle with sin, but the image of God within us remains. Our purpose, our original purpose, still stands: to glorify God and enjoy a relationship with Him. Now let's look at another aspect of God's creative work, the creation of woman. In Genesis 2:18, God looks at Adam and says, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." From the very beginning, God established that man and woman were to be in relationship, not only with each other, but with Him. When God created woman, He didn't just create a companion for man. He created someone who would stand alongside him, someone who would share in the responsibilities and joys of life. Together, they were to fulfill God's command to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the earth and subdue it. This unity between man and woman in marriage reflects God's nature. He, who is three in one, designed humanity to reflect his communal aspect in relationship. The bond between man and woman in marriage goes beyond mere companionship. It is a divine relationship ordained by God to reflect his love for the church. In Ephesians 5:31-32, Paul writes, "For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh." This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. The marriage relationship, therefore, is not just a reflection of human love. It is a symbol of God's love for his people. What does this mean for us today? It means that we were created not only to bear the image of God, but to do so in relationship. We are not isolated beings. God designed us to live in connection with one another and with him, whether it's through marriage, family, or friendship. These relationships mirror God's desire for unity and communion with his creation. It's through these relationships that we experience his love and reflect his glory. As we move forward in our exploration of why God created us, we must recognize that this image we bear, though marred by sin, is still a precious reflection of God's nature. Each one of us carries within us a piece of the divine, whether we recognize it or not. Our purpose then is not just to exist, but to live in such a way that we reflect the goodness, wisdom, and love of the Creator. So what can we learn from this? The lesson here is that our identity and purpose are not found in the things of this world. They are found in God. We were made to reflect his image, to be his stewards, to walk in relationship with him and with one another. Every time we act in love, every time we seek wisdom, every time we choose to live rightly, we reflect the image of our Creator. And this, my friends, is why we were created. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore the true purpose behind God's creation of humanity, what it means for us to glorify him, and how this brings ultimate fulfillment and peace to our lives. God's creation of humanity was never just about existence. He had a grander purpose in mind. As we explored earlier, we were made in his image, with the capacity for creativity, wisdom, and love. But along with this remarkable gift came responsibility. When God gave Adam and Eve dominion over the earth, he entrusted them with the care and stewardship of his creation. This dominion wasn't about ruling over the earth in a tyrannical way. It was about partnership. God, the Creator, chose humanity to be his stewards, to tend and protect the garden he had so carefully crafted. In Genesis 1:28, God commands Adam and Eve to be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. This dominion over the earth was not just a mandate to rule, it was a call to cultivate, care for, and preserve. It was a partnership between humanity and the Creator, a reflection of God's love and care for all creation. This responsibility is not just something that was given to Adam and Eve, but to all of us. We are called to be stewards of God's creation, from the air we breathe to the land we walk on. When we care for the environment, protect the vulnerable, and build communities of love and justice, we are living out the purpose God has set for us. It's not about owning the earth or using it recklessly for our own gain. It's about honoring God by taking care of what he has entrusted to us. When we think about this call to stewardship, we can reflect on how it applies to our lives today. We live in a world filled with challenges, environmental degradation, poverty, and inequality. But these are not just problems to be solved. They are opportunities for us to reflect God's love and justice, whether it's caring for the planet, serving others, or using our resources wisely. Each act of stewardship becomes an offering of praise to God, an acknowledgement of His goodness, and a step toward fulfilling the purpose He created us for. Now let's turn to the fall, the moment when humanity's relationship with God was ruptured. In Genesis 3, we read about the tragic fall of Adam and Eve. Despite having everything they could ever need in the garden, they chose to disobey God's command. This decision led to the introduction of sin into the world, and with it, the brokenness that affects all of humanity. Sin didn't just affect Adam and Eve, it affected all of creation. The dominion they were meant to exercise in partnership with God became corrupted. Rather than tending and caring for creation, humanity began to exploit it. The beautiful harmony that God had designed was shattered, and with it came pain, suffering, and death. But even in the midst of this great tragedy, God's love and grace shine through. While humanity's rebellion brought consequences, God did not abandon His creation. From the very moment of the fall, God promised a way forward, a path of redemption. In Genesis 3:15, God speaks of a future where the offspring of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. This was the first promise of the coming Savior, the one who would ultimately restore the broken relationship between God and humanity. This act of disobedience didn't just affect the people of the garden, it affected all of us. We live in a world where sin still causes brokenness. But the good news is that God didn't leave us in this state. He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to restore what was lost. Through His death and resurrection, Jesus offered us a way to be reconciled to God, to heal the brokenness that sin caused, and to bring us back to our original purpose, to live in a loving relationship with our Creator, reflecting His image and fulfilling His will. So what does this mean for us today? It means that while we are still living in a world affected by sin, we are called to live differently. We are called to be agents of redemption, to live lives that reflect God's image in a broken world. We are called to care for creation, serve others, and work toward healing the divisions caused by sin. And we are called to walk in relationship with God, just as He intended from the very beginning. In the next part of our exploration, we'll look at how God has made a way for us to restore our relationship with Him, and how we can live in the fullness of His purpose for our lives. We'll dive deeper into the idea of redemption, looking at how God continues to work through His people to bring about His kingdom on earth. But before we move forward, let's pause and reflect on the truth that we were created for a purpose, one that involves not only our personal relationship with God, but also our role in restoring and caring for the world around us. As we continue this journey, let us keep in mind that we are not just passive bystanders in this world. We are active participants in God's grand story. We are called to reflect His image and fulfill His purposes on the earth. And in doing so, we are living out the reason for our creation, bringing glory to God in all that we do. Now, as we journey deeper into our purpose, we reach the heart of what it means to be human, to glorify God. The Scriptures are clear. Our ultimate reason for being is to bring glory to the Creator. In 1 Corinthians 10:31, we are instructed, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God." This is not just a command for grand acts of worship or service, but for every moment of our lives. Everything we do can and should reflect the glory of God. The idea of glorifying God may seem lofty or abstract, but it is woven throughout the everyday choices we make, the work we do, the relationships we foster, the way we treat others. Each moment is an opportunity to live out the image of God within us and honor Him with our actions. A teacher in a classroom can glorify God by pouring into her students, not just academically, but spiritually, showing kindness and patience. A parent can glorify God by nurturing their children in love and wisdom, reflecting the sacrificial love of Christ. A businessman can glorify God by conducting his work with integrity and honesty, ensuring that his actions reflect God's values. In this way, our purpose becomes not something we merely seek to understand or contemplate, but something we live out in practical, everyday ways. Our existence is not about seeking personal glory, but about reflecting God's glory to the world around us. This is the divine calling that every believer is invited to embrace. We are not just here to live for ourselves. We are here to point others toward the beauty, goodness, and truth of our Creator. However, as we know, humanity's story is not just a story of glory and beauty. It's also one of brokenness. The fall, which we touched on earlier, has left all of creation groaning, longing for redemption. Through Adam's sin, humanity lost the perfect relationship with God that was originally intended. The curse of sin brought death, suffering, and separation from God. Yet from that very moment, God began to set in motion a plan of redemption, one that would restore the lost glory and purpose of humanity. The story of this redemption begins with a promise made in Genesis 3:15, the first hint of God's salvation plan. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. This prophecy pointed to the coming of Jesus, who would ultimately defeat sin and death and restore humanity's relationship with God. Through his life, death, and resurrection, Jesus made it possible for us to be reconciled with God and return to our original purpose, glorifying Him. This leads us to the life and work of Jesus Christ, the ultimate answer to the problem of sin and separation. In John 14:6, Jesus boldly declares, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus is the way back to the Father. He is the way for humanity to be restored to its intended purpose, to live in the image of God and reflect His glory. The gospel message is not just about escaping hell or receiving forgiveness. It is about returning to the original purpose of humanity, to live in the image of God and reflect His glory. In His life, Jesus demonstrated what it looks like to live for the glory of God. His entire existence was focused on doing the will of the Father. He healed the sick, comforted the brokenhearted, and taught with authority, always pointing to the Father. And then, in the ultimate act of sacrificial love, He went to the cross, bearing the weight of sin, so that we could be reconciled with God. His death on the cross is the ultimate example of God's glory being revealed through sacrifice and love. Through Jesus' sacrifice, we are invited to be part of this story of redemption. We are invited to come to the Father, to be forgiven, and to live in the fullness of the purpose for which we were created. This is the gospel, the good news, that through Christ, we can be restored to our rightful place in God's kingdom. We can once again reflect God's image, not because we are perfect, but because of His grace and the transformative power of the Holy Spirit. Now let's turn our attention to the practical implications of this. If we are called to glorify God, what does that look like in our daily lives? First, it means living with an eternal perspective. In Matthew 16:26, Jesus asks, What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Our lives are not about accumulating wealth or fame. They are about reflecting God's glory in every aspect of our being. This eternal perspective changes how we view success, happiness, and fulfillment. We are no longer slaves to the fleeting pleasures of this world, but we are focused on the lasting glory of God. Living to glorify God also means living with humility. Jesus, in his life and death, showed us that true greatness comes through serving others. In Mark 10:45, he says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." If we want to glorify God, we must follow his example of selflessness. It's not about seeking our own recognition, but about laying down our lives for the sake of others. This is the kind of life that reflects the love and humility of Christ. Finally, living to glorify God means living in relationship with him. This is perhaps the most essential aspect of our purpose. We were created for relationship with God, and that relationship is only made possible through Jesus Christ. As we grow in our understanding of his love, as we spend time in his presence through prayer and worship, we reflect his glory. As we align our hearts with his, we become more like him, and the world can see his beauty through our lives. But the journey doesn't stop there. Our purpose is not just to glorify God in isolation. It is to live in community, sharing his love with others. The Apostle Peter reminds us in 1 Peter 4:10-11 that each of us has received gifts from God to serve one another, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. Our purpose is not only to reflect God's glory in our own lives, but to help others do the same. As we serve, love, and encourage one another, we participate in God's redemptive work in the world. In the next section of our journey, we will explore the importance of serving God and others, living out our purpose in a world that desperately needs his light. But for now, let us reflect on the truth that our lives are not meaningless. We were created for a purpose: to glorify God, to reflect his image, and to share his love with the world. This is the ultimate fulfillment of our creation. This is why we were made. As we come to the end of this journey, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on everything we've uncovered together. From the very first breath of humanity in the Garden of Eden to the powerful redemption that flows through Jesus Christ, we have seen the extraordinary truth that we were created for a purpose that goes far beyond merely existing. Each of us has been designed with infinite value, endowed with the capacity to love, to create, to reason, and to walk in a relationship with the Creator. This purpose was never meant to be lived out alone. God created us for relationship, with him, with one another, and with the world around us. The call to glorify God isn't some distant, unattainable dream. It is the essence of who we are, woven into the very fabric of our being. Each day offers us a new opportunity to reflect God's image, to live out his love, and to fulfill the calling he has placed on our lives. It's in the small moments of kindness, the quiet acts of service, the big decisions made in faith, and the humble acknowledgement that we cannot do it alone, that we discover our truest purpose. As we've explored, we see that the fall of humanity did not disqualify us from this purpose. Instead, it provided an even greater opportunity for grace and redemption. Through Jesus, the perfect image of God, we are invited to be restored, to begin again, to live the life we were always meant to live. His death and resurrection paved the way for us to be reconciled with the Father, to remove the barrier of sin that once separated us from our Creator. Through His love, we are invited to embrace our true identity and fulfill our divine purpose. No matter the brokenness we've experienced or the mistakes we've made along the way, God's grace is sufficient. So the question remains, what are you going to do with this purpose as you walk through your days? Are you living with the intention to glorify God in everything you do? Are you reflecting His love to the people around you? Are you using your gifts, your talents, your time, and your resources for His glory? It's easy to get caught up in the noise of life, to chase after fleeting pleasures or the approval of others, but none of these things will ever fulfill the deep longing in our hearts. Our true fulfillment comes when we align ourselves with God's will and live out the purpose He created for us. Remember, this purpose isn't just about grand gestures. It's found in the everyday moments of life. When you care for your family, when you serve your community, when you choose to live with integrity and kindness, you are reflecting God's glory. It's in your work, your relationships, your passions, and even your struggles that you are called to shine His light. And as you do, you join in the grand story of redemption that began in Genesis and continues to unfold today. Today, I invite you to take this message to heart, to share it with others, and to let it shape the way you live. If you feel the stirring of purpose in your heart today, don't ignore it. God has created you for a reason, and your life matters more than you can imagine. You were created to make a difference, to bring light to the world, and to glorify God in every aspect of your being. Embrace your identity. Embrace your calling. Embrace the journey ahead. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this video has inspired you to reflect on your own purpose and how you can glorify God in all that you do. As we move forward, remember that you are part of a much bigger story, one that began at creation and continues in each of our lives. Keep walking in faith. Keep living with purpose. Keep shining the light of Christ to the world around you. Don't forget to share this video with friends and family who may need to hear these words. Together we can make a lasting impact in the world. God bless you all.